This has been a great event so far, right? Did you enjoy SUGCON so far? Yeah. Me too, me too. So let's dive into the topic we want to present today, and that's the rock-off. So since we launched the component builder last year, and I've been on stage at SUGCON last year, maybe you've been there as well, I presented it for the first time, I think. At least I did it. And we often got the question now, like, well, we have Headless SXA components, we built it that way before, and now we are introducing something new. So how is the way forward? What should we choose? What should we choose now? And what's the future? And I hope we can give you some answers in this presentation. And so welcome everyone to the rock-off between Headless SXA and the component builder. Quick introduction.
Yeah, I will start. So my name is Hahn. I'm working with a technology sidecar for more than 10 years already. At sidecar for nearly 2.5 years in the area of pre-sales, more technical guy, implementing quite often a lot. I was a former 4 times MVP, so that's me, Sebastian.
Yes, and for those of you who haven't attended the quiz yesterday, my name is Sebastian. I work for Sidecore as a developer advocate. I also have like 10 plus years experience with Sidecore. I was on customer side before. Now I'm with Sidecore for a bit more than 4 years. And let's get this going. So let's actually let the rock-off begin. To set the stage, what we want to do is we want to first introduce the opponents, right? So
first of all, the champion, Headless SXA. Headless SXA, and we can also say SXA, is already there for more than 8 years. And it is already out there in many, many production live sites. It was used quite a lot. And I would say the strength of Headless SXA or SXA is it's mature, it's quite flexible, it's powerful. The developer has a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility in building stuff. But to be honest, with a lot of flexibility and all the capabilities of Headless SXA, we have a steep learning curve for all the people who are not familiar with XM or XP, the concepts of items, data sources, renderings. It's quite difficult for them to get into Headless SXA. So today we will also see how Headless SXA is being used, where we can improve or not. All of that. So today, Headless SXA will be represented by me, and I would say to really match that guy, I will do that one. And for the very first time, I will present without my cap.
Great. So the challenger is XM Cloud Components, and even though I really love Headless SXA, I also love the component builder. It has been there since a year ago. I just mentioned it was presented at SUGCON Malaga. Probably a year ago, and it's very strong in its no-code approach, definitely. However, it's missing some feature, and therefore it might feel here and there a bit immature. We will see that in the demos and in the comparison rounds, how it can point the major approach is a no-code approach, no question on that, and it will be represented by me. So Next. Right, the rules of the rock-off.
Very important.
Very important, right? So both opponents will complete 4 rounds. We will go through the view of different personas. So we go through the view of a marketer first, then through the view of a designer, and end up with a developer, which is probably the easiest for us too. And then we also take a look at performance, like how do both solutions perform on an actual website, right? Every round compares different use cases and will end up with a rating. And we will always have a look on the time to market and the user experience for the dedicated persona that we are talking about. 2 notes. First one is the evaluation is always assuming that we are in an enterprise context, right? We are not WordPress, we're Sidecore, so that's enterprise. And it doesn't make sense to compare other cases. And the second one is that the demos you will see are not necessarily for education purpose. I mean, we will show how to create components, we will show how to code components, but it might be sometimes a bit fast or too small on the screens, not sure. but they should illustrate the process so that you can understand why we, like how is our rating and why we rate it like that. Yeah, and easy thing, product with the most points wins at the end. So let the rock-off begin.
Yeah, so first round, the marketer round. I don't know why I present that, but yeah, the marketer. A few words on the marketer round. We assume we are the usual content editor, marketer, not that deeply involved into all of the internals of Sitecore. So therefore, the marketer uses mainly the WYSIWYG editor, meaning pages, not experience editor, hopefully. So the use case will be creating a page, drag and drop content onto the page, assembling everything, publish everything, all of that. And the use cases, actual use cases, are creating a component really from scratch, then using and edit a component, and with edit we mean really changing the styling, changing a few, in the good old days, and I'm the good old days, we call it rendering parameters, changing stuff like that, and finally, ultimately, personalize the component. And with that said, we start with create the component. And what kind of component we would like to create is, I would say, a simple hero banner with title or headline, text, CTA, and image. Pretty simple. If you would like to have a look how that looks like, sitecore.com, the very first banner, we just got inspired by that one. And with that said, we will start the actual workshop with component builder.
Right. So that should be an easy task for me. Does the video run? Yes. Great. So what we want to do is in component builder, we want to create a component. So we give it a name, hero banner. And then we start with a section, so our canvas basically. And as we want to utilize data sources from XM Cloud, we have to connect our component with a template from XM Cloud. So now we're adding a card, and into the card we're adding a headline. Are we there already? Yes. Nice. And with the headline, we are associating a field from the template so that later on the data is displayed as a headline, right? So that's the idea. We're adding a paragraph, doing the same job here with and associating the text field with it, and then adding the CTA button. And here we have to map two fields, which is on the one hand the label that we show on the button, but also the link where you go when you click the button at the end. Now, we want to adjust the styling a bit, so we want to have it in kind of a dark theme, and therefore we switch into the themes. And a designer has prepared for us the theme already. That's great. So the only thing we are not happy about is the button, so we're changing the button style quickly to a purple one, and then we stage and publish the component. This way it's available in pages, and a marketer can further use it on the page to design the page, basically. Loading pages. And we will find the component in the component section, and we put it under SUGCON, which makes sense. Drag and drop the component. We are selecting a data source. We all know that from general behavior of components. We've pre-created the component, but we also could create one on the fly. And here we go. Here's our component with the actual data source. Now, taking a look at the preview, it looks perfectly fine, I think. And I forgot to click the titles to give you a bit of, that you know where we are. Okay.
Oh yeah. Next one. Headless SXA. That's an easy one because, just to be brutally honest, it's not there. Headless SXA is not designed for marketers to create new component. A marketer always needs a developer who goes in, codes the component, and deploys that. So I would say that's exactly the case for component builder, so yeah, it's not there. And the rating is also quite obvious, 0 points for Headless SXA, what a pity, and full points for component builder. Next one, use and edit components, and hopefully I will get better in that. So what we would like to do is, now we have the hero banner text left, and the pretty simple one is hero banner text right. It's a simple variation of a component, pretty usual requirement of editors or authors to have something like that available. And now, again, we will see, and please click, how component builder will do that.
Right. Easy job for us. Not an easy job for us. No. So in component builder, we call that versions. but it's a similar idea like Headless SXA variants. So let's add a component again. You've seen that in the previous demo, but it's so awesome. So let's add the data source to it. And maybe a bit about the general stuff that we can do in pages with components once it's there. We can preview it, of course. We've seen that as well. So we have the component twice on the page. Don't get irritated. But what we can also do is use drag and drop to move the component. So if we think that was a wrong location, we need to have it under the text block, we can move it down or we can move it up. So just a bit of user experience for the marketer here. And then we can go on this right-hand side and we see the different variations that we have available. One is the default one, which is text left, and then we have the text right. So we can choose that, and after refreshing the page, it changes. So here we are. That's the top one. That's the bottom one with the one on the right side. And also if we refresh the preview, then we see the two components. One has the one on the left side, one on the right side. So you can pretty much do the stuff that you like. And the good thing about Component Builder, a marketer can build these variants or versions himself or herself. So we just added a copy of it, moved the card to the right, and we could even add more versions as a marketer without writing any line of code. And yeah, I forgot this. Maybe.
No worries. Maybe I can click. So, Headless SXA. And again, no. Just kidding, we have something. So Headless SXA works quite similar. As mentioned, someone created a component, so we go on the left-hand side in the toolbar, scroll a little bit down to the Headless SXA components, we drag and drop it onto the page, and one nice thing, we are already at the exact location where we need to be. In Component Builder, we had to move down quite a lot, so that's already nice.
Fair point.
You see? It is placed on the page. We can now go to the variants, headless variants, and switch between text left, text right, backward. So it's pretty simple, pretty intuitive. We could even add stylings like the bottom color should be purple, teal, red, whatever. All easy. And one additional thing, we can do inline editing. I think I didn't see inline editing in your demo, right?
No, there was no inline editing.
So with that said, I would say go to the scrolling and let's see how they work now. We see both get 2 points. Headless SXA, we saw it's quite easy to do that. It's quite easy to choose the variants, to have this inline editing and all of that, but we need a developer who needs to prepare that.
Right.
And Component Builder, 2 points, why?
Yeah, missing inline editing, I think.
Exactly.
And it was not too good to scroll to the actual location where we find the data sources. So fair point to miss 1 point here.
Yeah, it's a tie. So we are fine with that so far. Last but not least, personalize the component. So with the times of XM Cloud, we know we have embedded personalization. And both approaches, to be fair, should work with personalization. So let's see.
Right, that's not a problem for the Component Builder. So what we can do in XM Cloud is we can go to the Personalize tab and we build an actual audience. So we give the audience a name, and next we need to assign the rules, basically. So we're adding a rule and say, well, if a visitor has already visited our site, or if that's a new visitor, so we have the default audience and then the new audience. And we can, on the one hand, hide a component for a certain audience, simple use case, or we can, which we'll see next, we can have a different data source, right? So we can show different data. And yeah, we've prepared this data source. So we are taking this one. So we have a Bavarian banner for the special audience, and then the hero banner for the default audience. So yeah, works pretty well with performance. And how about you?
Yeah, also no problem, Headless SXA. Looks quite similar. So we are again on a page. For the sake of simplicity, we are reusing the same audience. So we are choosing the audience, clicking on the banner. It's this Headless SXA banner, and we have the same dialog on the right-hand side. So hide and show component is really no deal. So it behaves exactly the same. But one additional thing we can do now, and that's what you'll see in a second, we can exchange with a compatible rendering. that's no problem for Headless SXA. So for example, exchange a banner with a card and the other way around. And the last one, also the same. Changing the data source, again, same Bavarian data source, and we can switch between the standard and this audience-based variant quite easily. So what is the scoring of all of that? Headless SXA, full points. We fully support personalization, component builder.
Yeah, we should check about the compatible rankings. So
yeah, so 1 point less, but it's no problem. So round one, let's sum it up a little bit. To be honest, Headless SXA has a quite hard start. We know that, we saw that. So 5 points in some component builder, 7 points, really, really doing a great job on the marketer side.
It does.
So, next round.
Yeah, round two, the designer. So again, we try to act as a designer as good as we can. And we assume that we're mostly using what you see is what you get tooling, so we don't want to code. And we mostly want to create or design components. And so, yeah, let's create or style components. So creating components is a quite easy one because it's exactly the same like the experience from the marketer. So therefore, 0 points for Headless SXA and 3 points for component builder. Next use case.
We have to talk about that later on, right?
But why? No, styling capabilities for the component builder. So we have basically two, or to be honest, there are even 3 styling capabilities in the component builder. The first one we want to talk about is we have, when we build a component, we have on the right-hand side, we have options to adjust the styling for the component directly, but we also have the opportunity to build a whole design system for components that we can reuse. But let's start with the ad hoc design options. Simple case, maybe I don't like the vertical padding here, so that's why I click on the spacing options here at the mid-right side. And I can choose the vertical padding and switch it from 120 pixels to 80, and it instantly changes its size. Well, very simple case, but you can do it, and you don't have to write code for it. Now, the second use case is a more sophisticated one, where I can set up a whole design system to have the corporate design of my company. So I'm starting with the fonts and also with my color scheme. I can use all of that I'm basically set up front in the typographies, and then later on build the actual text elements or other elements that I'm using to assemble my components that we've seen before in the component builder. So that's just briefly, but yeah, I can do that without coding.
Amazing.
What about,
really, really amazing.
What about SXA?
Yeah, you might already know what comes next.
Of course.
Not there. So Headless SXA, it's great in having the developer be able to style components, creating headless variants, additional rendering parameters, style everything if needed, and the editor or marketer can really use that. But something like that where a designer can directly work in some kind of UI. Of course, the Headless SXA does not have something like that. But yeah, we will see next use cases. Oh yeah, no, I don't want to see that.
I think that round wasn't too good for Headless SXA, so no points there and 6 points for component builder.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's be a developer. And I said that's most easy for Christian and me. We will act as developers, so we just act normal. We want to code, right? And we want to persist our code in the source code repository for better maintainability. We want to control the component behavior so that we can match the client requirements by 100%. And what we want to do is actually build components. And by that, I don't want to show the demo again while we go into the component builder, but we want to see the bring your own component feature of the component builder. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to take a deeper look on the content modeling side, how that works in either the one or the other solution. So let's start with building components. So the component we want to build, again, simple example, we have a video teaser, and the video teaser has a has a headline, it has a video, so the marketer adds a YouTube ID to show that video, and then we have some descriptive text, maybe for better SEO ranking. Let's start with the BYOC feature of the component builder. Okay, so what we first want to do is we want to scaffold the component, and we are in Visual Studio Code and use JSS to scaffold a BYOC component. So we're passing the path where this component should be stored, because it should not be stored in the general component folder, but in a BYOC folder, and we're also passing the name of the component, and at the end we're adding the BYOC parameter to use the template that's used for a BYOC component. And there it is. And the first thing we want to do is we want to do the data modeling. So we go on top and basically say we want to define the fields that we need, right? So it's a headline, the YouTube ID, and the text. And now I just adjust the markup so I get rid of the errors and see the actual fields being displayed. And the last thing we do usually is in the register component method, we have to describe how the component behaves in pages, so what fields are there, and how all of that is being displayed. So last but not least, we import our new component in that configuration or import file, and once we deploy everything, it's basically available in our in pages, like all the others. And when I add this component, I can see, well, it's not that one, it's that one. So we're just seeing some dummy content and the fields being displayed. And we can edit that on the right side, not inline, but close to inline, and add just the headline, the YouTube ID, and some text. And when we hit the update button, the text basically appears. So let's work now on the component itself. I've prepared the code already, copied in. That's the coding part. And then now I can test my component locally and adjust everything so that it fits the requirements. So I can start my local host on port 3000 to test the component. And when I'm happy with the result, I simply deploy it so a marketer can use the component. So it's a very easy workflow, I would say. And overall, this was a bit fast-forwarded in the video, but it took me around 4 minutes to create this component with copying the code. So, I mean, the logic of the code can always differ, but the general process took me around 4 minutes.
Yeah,
amazing. How about you?
Amazing. So, I really loved especially the part where you are not taking care on any item, data source, whatever. It was just code, and you deployed everything, it worked.
Nice experience.
Yeah, exactly, DevX. So, in Headless SXA, it's a little bit more complicated. So, let's see. Just seeing if the video started correctly. Yes, great. So what we are doing, best practice based on Sidecar Accelerate recipes, we start by cloning a rendering or cloning a component. And what we do is taking a simple standard promo component. Pretty easy. We give it a new name, our video teaser. We assign it to any kind of module. We pre-created a module and we assign it. And we can then determine if the data source or the rendering parameters should be inherited or should be clean copies. And for the flexibility, it's a clean copy. So you can do whatever you want afterwards. And the standard promo does not affect you any further. Then after this script has run, we can then start basically doing the data modeling. Going down to the data source, that's what we're doing right now. And of course, it's a copy of promo, so it has all the promo fields. So that's what you're seeing right now. We, first of all, have to get rid of all the promo field stuff. That's quite easy, so remove all of that by removing the section item and just inserting all of your custom stuff. Just takes a second, so you can enjoy that developer work now a second. It's simply headline, YouTube video ID, text. Pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But you already see you need to understand and know Sidecar, data sources, data modeling quite a bit, to be honest. When we are done, we go on the other side. It's scaffolding the component. We have the same CLI, same scaffolding command now for JSS component. We can use the standard path on the components, and it will generate a pretty simple standard component for us. we can then use as blueprint. And from that blueprint on, I'm just moving there, and from that blueprint on, we can insert all our custom code. And of course, we are cheating again. We replace simply with our custom codes. But you can already see we have all our includes. For the sake of simplicity, we are using SUGCON UI as a UI library. We have all the JSS includes, our data models. We are getting all the information we're getting from GraphQL, from Edge, and our actual markup for rendering all the video stuff and all the component information. Now, when we are done with coding on that side, we go back to sidecar side. And on sidecar side, we now have to enable that component. And enabling means we need to create a global data folder and put a new data source item in there, a video module. For sure, you can also automate that. For the sake of simplicity, we're doing that manually now. And yeah, we are just adding a global video teaser. It's, again, some dummy content with some dummy ID, with some dummy text. To be honest, nothing special, so fast forward that. And we added finally to the available renderings tab. So it becomes really available in Pages Editor. And now you see the very bottom, you can now add that component. But some of you might already know what happens next. So if we now drag and drop the component, we will not see the component. We will see this nice little orange arrow, which tells us no head implementation is existing. That's because we didn't deploy yet. So far, we just added all the stuff in Sidecar, and we added all the local implementation, and we prepared the content. What we are doing now, again, for the sake of simplicity, we are now going locally again. We are spinning up our local host and just connecting to our remote Sidecar system, and we see locally we have the code. It's pretty much working. It's fine. So we tested our code, and ultimately we can deploy it so it becomes fully available in Pages in the Xamarin Cloud environment. Everything at all, it takes a little bit less than 6 minutes. Again, fast forwarded and a little bit of cheating. So it was a little bit slower and, to be honest, a little bit more complicated. Let's face it. So what is the scoring telling us?
Right, so Headless SXA gets, due to the steeper learning curve, you have to know a bit about Xamarin Cloud. If you're new to it, it might look a bit complicated. Most of us are used to it, so it's fine. But we have to admit, maybe we reduce it by 1 point. However, the component builder experience looked great, so why is there just 1 point? Well, one thing that we haven't discussed about is that he was able to use a rich text, I was not, for example. So, and there are some other field types that are currently not supported, such as image, so that's why I pasted image URL in a single line field. So I cheated there a bit, we didn't talk about it, but let's be honest here, and we need to fix that, right? So that's why just 1 point for the component builder. Great experience so far, but then using that component at the end, it lacks here some feature set. Oh, we have to hurry up a bit.
Yeah, we will do.
Content modeling. Again, simple example. This is an album review component, and it reviews the latest albums of the Bugbusters. So we have the headline at the top with the band name and the album name, and then we have the album cover and the actual review text. And what we want to take a look at when taking a look at data sources is, on the one hand, we've seen it already, a shared data source, right? Marketers want to have the ability to centrally manage content and use that content in several locations, so that simplifies their process and not going into all locations and changing it everywhere. So that's a shared data source approach. Then there's also a use case where we just want to be quickly creating content, I believe. And we just want to drag and drop the component, put in the content, not care about anything. Less clicks, less time used. So that's definitely a use case. And then we have a third use case here, which is using the actual page context as a data source. And we mostly use that when using partial designs. Meaning, imagine you have a blog post, and you want to use the same page design, the page appearance every time, but obviously with different content. So that's where you use the page context as a data source and just reuse the whole design. So we want to check that as well. Let's look at the component builder first. So we've implemented 3 times the same component with different data source behavior, starting with a shared component. So when I add this component as component builder, I have to select the template I want to associate with, and then I can select the actual data source. So let's do that. We've prepared that up front, and it's somewhere down here. Right. Refresh. Here's our component. Next use case. So that worked. So let's go for the ad hoc component, adding it. There's no content, but we can add the content on the right-hand side, adding the headline, the text, and the image ID. Oh, no, the image URL. So there we go. I think that works. And now we go with the page context. And that behaves, sadly, just like the shared data source. So we have to select the page template as the associated template, select now a page, but it's not, we can select the page we place that component on, but it's not doing it automatically. I mean, it shows the content, but it's some extra clicks. So therefore, I would say it failed because it wouldn't work with partial designs.
Okay, Headless SXA. Let's see how Headless SXA does it. So again, we have the different components. The very first one, oh, I already have the check mark, but yeah, it's possible. We have a shared data source. So the global folder, we have the data source in a global folder. We can have it on under the page level, under shared site level, all no problem. It's pretty standard behavior. The second one is pretty similar to rich text module. You drag and drop it onto the page. It automatically generates a data source for you, and you can start maintaining it via inline editing, via the additional editing capability. So again, all no problem. And the third one is the page data source. Behaves quite similar. You don't have to do anything, but it is using the context item, ultimately the page item under the hood, to render the stuff. Quite useful for something like detail pages, block pages, if you need to render additional information. So I would say that works pretty well. And the ranking and the scoring will tell us exactly the same. So 3 points for Headless SXA and just 1 point for Component Builder UI.
I'm just checking why. I mean, it failed on the partial design, for sure. Yeah, I think the experience to select a template,
yes.
I think we need to fix that, yeah.
Exactly. So overall, 5 points for Headless SXA. I hope so. So it's a developer use case, as Headless SXA should point here, and 2 points for Component Builder. Let's see, last round. We have to hurry up a little bit, but we will manage. Performance. Performance, we will do one thing to check performance. Does any of the approaches affect, mostly negatively, the Lighthouse score? And to do so, we're just using a very simple comparison. An empty page, pretty standard, header, footer, that's it. And you're seeing the Lighthouse score, which is a good indicator of how performant the site is. And I would say it has quite high performance. For additional information, we are hosting on Vercel. We are using static site generation, not the very last JSS version, to be honest. There was some release very late. We were not able to include, but that's how we built this empty page. And you see, in comparison, Component Builder, BYOC, Headless SXA, the very good message here is no negative impact on the site. To be honest, there was a time it was different, but nowadays you see we tested it multiple times with all of this big hero banner and maybe multiple banners. It's performing quite well on this performance tab. You see in the very first one, the Component Builder, we have a negative impact on SEO and accessibility. That's just because of how we build our component in Component Builder. It was a section with a card, and in the section we had a background image, and it was not possible to set an alt text for the image on this section. So Google Lighthouse score really punishes us for that. We will have to fix that for sure on a product level to be able to set an alt text. But rather than that, I would say all the solutions are performing quite well when it comes to performance. And of course, there are a lot of impact around like how you host your site. If it's Vercel, Netlify, on a node server, which JSS version you're using, if you're using static site generation, if the image is optimized or not, or whatever. But overall, it's a good indicator of how performant an external cloud site can be in general, but also with each of those solutions. So summing up, points for Headless SXA and Component Builder, we said it's a tie, all full points, because it's great. Now, the overall score, starting with Headless SXA. We are going through marketer. Yes, we have some limitations in there, for sure. We know that. Yeah, it's no bug. Designer has 0 points. We know that. Developer has some points, and luckily enough points, nearly full points, and performance is behaving really, really great. So, Component Builder UI.
Yes. Doing great on the marketer side. We can use what you see is what you get editing tools and have the marketers actually involved in the component creation process. So that's great. And that's also available for the designers, right? However, in the development workflow, we have to say it's a great experience, but it's lacking some features. So we have to ramp up there. And we just saw the performance. It's doing great. So no question on that. So overall, we have a winner, I think, which is Component Builder still.
Wait. So we have to talk about that. So 13 points, Headless SXA, and 18 Component Builder. I can remember this create component was counted twice. I think that's a little bit unfair, right?
Okay, let's take this off. Still 15 points for the Component Builder and 13 for Headless SXA.
Yeah, right. So it seems we have a winner, but keep in mind, we have simple use cases, really, really basic use cases. We could easily dig deeper into rights and roles, security, governance.
I understand where this is going. Yeah, okay. So let's agree on the tie.
Yeah.
And maybe one thing, if you remember the talk from Liz yesterday, we have the vision at Sitecore where we actually want to merge the best of both worlds. We want to have the great developer experience of the BYOC feature, but obviously we are in an enterprise context and we need the feature set of that's currently fulfilled by Headless SXA. So it's a vision, and we hope this will come true. And both will align and form the ultimate merged rock experience. We also promised to give you some kind of recommendation, like what to use now, right? A vision is good to have, but it's not there yet, so you can't build with that. And if you ask us, and if you also read the Accelerate recipes, so it's not only us, if you want to build yourself as developers, go for Headless SXA at the moment and wait for what's coming up there. That's a clear recommendation for now. However, if you want to involve your marketers in the component creation and you have requirements for that to quickly have something built up and you don't want to involve or you don't have capacity in your development stack, talk to your XM Cloud experts first to just double check if any of the limitations affects your requirements or your solution. But it's a great way to build quick components that you can launch on your website. So that's the real strength of Component Builder at the moment. And it's a young product, right? It's 1 year old, so it's a kind of a toddler. But I mean, it works, or it's more mature than it actually is in terms of age. So with that, thanks a lot for choosing this talk. I hope that was valuable time spent for all of you. And if you have any questions, probably we ran a bit out of time, so you can meet us over there in the launch.
Yes, of course.
And that's...
Last slide.
Last slide. And thanks to our sponsors, but also thanks to the real rock stars here, the guys and girls in green. So round of applause for the organizers. Thank you. Or if we have time for questions now, we can... Oh, we have. So if you have questions now, you don't have to walk over there.
Here's a question.
My voice probably carries far enough. I was wondering, obviously this didn't touch on mixing and matching so far as yet, but can you use SXA components and collate them into the component builder?
No, but you can use BYOC components and use them in the component builder. So you can build parts of the component with code and let the authors embed them when assembling a component. So that's what you can do. And the code is more or less the same. So the Next.js code in this case, yeah.
Thanks.
More questions that I can handle? No. Oh, then, if you have further questions, just meet us over there. Thanks a lot.